episode is brought to you by the letter C. It stands for consent, which just so happens to be a stuff that my mom never told me about. So I'm gonna tell you about it, okay? Nod your head and say yes. Let's do this consensually. The reason that I wanted to talk about what capital C consent is and what it means for both women and men is in response to a recent video that I did called 237 Reasons Why Humans Have Sex. Some of the reasons cited did not have to do with people actually wanting to have sex. Instead, as viewer at Ali Ellendorf pointed out, so many are rape related. It makes me so sad that this is part of our reality. I'm gonna need my teacher glasses to give you a definition of consent, which is when two parties come together in agreement on a sexual behavior, an understanding of what is allowed within that sexual behavior, and this is crucial, the understanding that one or both people can say stop at any point. It doesn't matter whether you're just barely, your lips haven't even touched and all of a sudden you're like, no, I can't, no. Or if you are completely naked, you are halfway between third base and a home run and you don't want to do it anymore, guess what? You can say stop. And that's totally fine. Allow me to illustrate what I mean with chocolate chip cookies. Oh my God, I love chocolate chip cookies. They are so good. Me too. Can I get one of your chocolate chip cookies? Okay, maybe like a bite. A bite? Are you kidding me? Are you some kind of chocolate chip cookie tease? You walk out here waving your chocolate chips all up in front of my face, showing them to me, and you're all like, oh yeah, you can have some of my chocolate chip cookies. A bite, a taste, a nibble. You are nothing but a tease. Listen, you can go home because you got an oven and you can make chocolate chip cookies all night, all day. You don't even need me for chocolate chip cookies. You can make them all on your own. You get my drift? You get my drift? Because I'm talking about masturbation. Now, for a little more clarification on what consent is, it is something that is active, voluntary, wanted, honest, not just about what you want, but also what you don't want. What consent is not, however, is something that is coerced or convinced. The absence of no does not mean yes. The only thing that means yes is yes. Legally speaking, there are three main areas where you cannot give consent. First of all, if you are severely intoxicated by alcohol or drugs. And this gets into a lot of gray areas that I'm not gonna get into, but Lacey Green has an awesome video about this called Sex Plus Alcohol that I highly recommend. The second area is if you are physically or mentally disabled. And finally, this might seem like an obvious one, but you cannot consent if you say no. That is regardless of any kind of sexual activity that has happened with that partner in the past. You might have sex with someone in the morning, but that night, if you say no, no means no. And then this conversation is for you as well. A lot of times when we talk about consent, it's in very gendered, heteronormative terms. We think of consent as something that a guy should seek out from a girl to ensure that he is not then later blamed for doing something like raping her. But when it comes to sexual violence, guys, it can and it does happen to you as well. According to Columbia University Health Center, 1 in 10 rape victims is male. 10 to 20% of all men will be sexually violated at some point. So consent is not just something that women need to learn about, and it shouldn't just be something for male-female couples. No, sexual violation happens in any kind of gender sexual orientation slice and dice structure that you would like to look at. If we want to lower the incidence rates of all of these kinds of violations happening, the surefire way to do it across all of these different gender sexual orientation structures is by talking about consent. We have got to start the conversation because societally, we are so uncomfortable even acknowledging the fact that people, especially younger people, want to have sex that we don't even know how to say no. I didn't know about consent when I was younger, and I wish that I had. The least fulfilling sexual experiences that I have had were from my younger days when I was just going along with things because I thought that's what I should do. I didn't know that I had a voice and I could say no, and that was no reflection on me, but simply what I didn't want to do, and that's perfectly and totally fine. It needs to be okay to say, yes, I consensually want to have sex and I want to have a lot of sex, and that's totally fine. Equally fine for you to say, you know what? No, I'm not okay having sex. I'm not okay doing this, or this. Everybody's a little bit different and everyone has a different kind of relationship with sex. Can you tell that I'm passionate about this? All it takes to have consensual sex is to just say, hey, you know what? I want this. What do you want? Okay, let's go do it. Consent, again, is not meant to take the fun out of sex, but rather to liberate us in order to have more fun. And the next morning, be happy about it. Feel fine about it. There should not be that kind of guilt associated with sex the next day because we did something just because we didn't know how to say no. I want to know from you, do you talk about consent? How do you bring it up? And any questions you might have, let me know in the comments. If you want to know more, I also recommend you going to RAINN.org. That's RAINN with 2 N's. It's the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, and they have all sorts of information on this. Remember, people, I've said it once and I'll say it again. Consent makes sex even sexier. So let's do it. Let's talk about sex. It's about freaking time.